Alright, so this is a pheasant tail, and this is not a traditional pheasant tail. Alright, and this is the first year that we've tied them this way, or I've tied them this way, and if everybody likes it, good, and if we don't like it, then we'll change back, but I think it'll be a lot easier to tie. So anyway, it's going to have a bead on it, just like the first fly. This is a straight hook. This is the same hook you just tied your hare's ear on. Did everybody do okay with their hare's ear?
No.
No?
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
I would 15 not have it.
This is a barbless hook for Jim Svoboda. He got a little upset with me before. Okay, so if everybody's familiar, like with all the Euro nymphing and stuff that's going on, if you look at, like, you know, Lance Egan ties a fly called a Frenchie, which is basically a pheasant tail. And I saw a fly the other day. It was called a Polish nymph, and it had some hot spots and some different Polish or Euro nymphing kind of stuff on it. I'm going to take that out, but it's a good-looking pheasant tail, and it's a lot easier to tie, I think, than the traditional one. So anyway, I'm going to use red thread on mine. You guys certainly can too. And I'm also going to use a different material for the tail than pheasant. So I'm only going to put one hunk of pheasant on this whole fly. And I'll pass some of this around. It's called Cote de Leon. And it's a really good tail fiber. It's really tough and ties in nice, and I actually use it on a lot of flies, and that was actually what was used on this fly. It's also what Lance uses on his Frenchie. So just kind of like the pheasant, I pull off all the stuff that I'm not going to use. This is the part that I will use. And I'm just going to take a pretty healthy clump, pull it off to the side so it's nice and even. Take it off. And then the easier way for me to tie this on, instead of putting it on top and doing the pinch wrap, I kind of put it on the side of the hook next to me. When I put my thread over, it pulls it right up on the top. And I think that's, for me, that's much easier than the pinch wrap when I use little material like this. All right, and then I just adjusted my tail until I have it where I like it. So it's roughly about the length of the shank, maybe just a touch shorter, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and wrap. I want all these butt sections incorporated in my fly. I want to get a little bit of bulk, and also when I bring it up to here, I can kind of cram it in the back of that bead a little bit. And that'll give my bead a little bit of stability. Then cut all this waste off. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is put in my wire. And they actually use red wire on this also, but I got a piece of gold here, so I'll just use that. Okay, and I'm going to put the end of that wire right in the back of that bead and bring this back. And I'm going to counter wrap this wire, and so something that I found that makes counter wrapping a little easier, I've got this wire, instead of being on top of the shank, it's on the inside of the shank towards me. If everybody can see that. And then when I go to counter wrap, it's not involved with my tail. It's hanging right here, and I can just bring it right around. And I find that that's a little easier for me. All right, so that's done. Now the pheasant tail, this is the only part of the pheasant tail, only time I'm going to put pheasant tail on this fly. And I'm going to take, so now I do need to be a little careful about how many I pull off. because I need an even number, because I'm going to try to divide them out for the legs. So if I do 8 fibers, I'll have 4 legs on either side. 10 fibers, I'll have 5 legs, you know. So I do want to try to count them to the best of my ability. It's not a deal breaker, but okay, so I think I have about 8 here. I'm going to cut the junk off the end. All right, and then so all my tips are pretty even, which is important. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this in. I'm going to measure. All I'm looking at is the length that my tips come past my bead, because that's what I'm going to have to work with as a leg. So I want it to be, you know, I want my legs to fold back and come to about the middle of the hook at least. And so that looks pretty good to me. Go ahead and get your wrap on and make sure that everything's right on top. And then as I wrap forward, it's important that I keep all of this pheasant right on the top of my hook and just right into the back of the bead. Those are going to be all my legs there. So it's kind of long. Okay, and now I'm going to take this material, what's left over, and I'm going to wrap that forward, and that's going to become my body. All right, and so this is a place where if you want to use your hackle pliers, you certainly can. I just want to keep it nice and tight. And, you know, like John was talking about, have a nice long pheasant tail, because if you don't, this can get a little tricky because you don't have much to hold on to. But you want to keep it nice and tight and just wrap nice and smooth all the way forward. Okay, when I get to the front, I'm going to go ahead and tie it off. And I don't have to come all the way to my bead, because I am going to put a thorax on this. So if I don't make it all the way to the bead, that's just fine. Okay, now my butt ends are tied off. Now be careful you don't get any of your legs. Okay, so that's the body. Now, this is where counter wrapping your wire is absolutely important, because what you're doing is you're protecting the pheasant, which is not the most durable thing in the world. So I'm wrapping this way normally. So now I'm going to wrap this way, and I'm going to do the same kind of wraps. Try to keep them evenly spaced. Three or 4 wraps around it to tie it off, pull it tight, and then just helicopter. Breaks right off. If you are going to use your scissors, cut with the very back. Don't cut with the tips, because that'll dull them out. All right, so when I watched this tied, it was the guy used like a black and green ice dub. I'll bring around a bunch of ice dub and let you guys choose what I'm going to use. It's actually called Pheasant Tail. And you can see how sparkly and shiny it is. Where did I leave my little green thing? Is it over there by you, Katie? That little green thing with the water in it? So this is one of those sponges that people that count money use. And so you don't want to keep spitting on your fingers all the time. Jack Dennis swears that he got endocarditis from licking his fingers and touching Chinese-made fly tying stuff. But it didn't kill him, so.
That's good.
I watched Kelly Gallup yesterday tying a streamer on YouTube, and every time he was using any marabou, he took the marabou and ran it through his mouth. That one jack.
Just like kids, we ate dirt and we're strong.
When you tie it shows, it's really nice to not spit on your hands and hand people flies too, so. especially during the cold, flu and cold season. Okay, so I'm just going to put a nice little thorax. All right, and now all I have left to do is kind of divide my legs. I'm going to pull half to one side and just wrap. And then I'll pull half to this side and wrap. Now my legs are on, and then I'm going to whip finish it and put a I'm going to put a little hot spot behind this bead. So it's going to take quite a bit of thread because it kind of buries behind that bead, but so the way this fly was originally tied, it had a red hot spot at the butt also, like right in front of the tail. But
Red dart.
yeah, it's definitely a Euro nymph, but anyway, I saw it, I thought I'd try it.
It's like the Sam Swain fly.
Rachel, can you see if I can use that?
Does it?
Yep.
I showed it to him the other day when I went down there, and he didn't make any comment. So anyway, so that's a pheasant tail. I don't know if you guys will like it better or worse than the traditional, but I think it'll be easier to tie.
I like that fly.